for that Prime Gaming sub. We see you.
For eons, I have governed heaven and earth. Man or god, each is heard. Their anger, their pain, and in their time of need, I rise. Alona! So when the day comes that they ascend to the heavens, the rewards that await are not of silver or gold, but jade.
Well, hey there, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome to Day 6 of the Smite Masters here, capstoning what has been an amazing Phase 1, both for the SPL, of course, for the SEC, and all powered by Prime Gaming. Of course, I'm thrilled to say that everything is powered by Prime Gaming. You've already seen all of the games that you can get with Prime this month. But make sure that you're getting the most out of your membership with all the other exclusive content Prime Gaming has to offer. So if you're not a Primer yet, make sure that you become one, right? It's the time now. There's literally no better time than now. What's that saying with like the trees? Was like the best time to plant one was 20 years ago. The next best time is now. That's what it is for being a Prime sub. Do it now. You can get free Twitch subs, free games and game content, free Amazon delivery, and more. And again, I'd like to thank Prime Gaming for being the title sponsor this year for the SPL. Mifflin is joining me on the desk. My name's Gormizer, and we've got some fun action for us today, Mifflin. A lot of SPL and a lot of SCC. Surprising. Well, maybe not a lot of SCC. One SCC, but they still made it through to week number 2, and I think it's going to create a very fun, dynamic week for us, or at least day for us. We'll see whether or not they can create it into a week.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the first set of the day, man. I mean, just every time the SEC is allowed to play against the SPL, I think it just makes for really engaging content, seeing the, I suppose, the delineation and how two different cultures approach the game.
Yeah.
SEC and SPL pretty far removed from each other, but we've seen now that not always one above the other. SEC, Eldritch Hounds in particular, have made a pretty decent run so far this week, but they've got a tough opponent ahead of them. Jade Dragons aren't going to roll over.
I will say, though, there's something to be said, and we got to see it a little bit yesterday as we look through the bracket, and specifically how these days have rolled out, that losing in maybe these first best of ones isn't the end of the world. It's way better if you win this and then just win the last best of 3 and then move forward. But if you lose here, and we saw with the Titans yesterday, then you get that opportunity not only to play more matches on 9.5, which right now in this group, no one has more matches played. Actually, in the tournament, no one has more matches played than the Eldritch Hounds. And so they've got a lot of experience already on the patch, plus that gets you maybe warmed up and hyped up moving forward. Ideally, though, you just win 3 and you move on. I'm sure that's what pretty much every single team showing up here today is looking to do. Valks did it on Sunday, and the Hounds had a much harder path to get here, but the Dragons and the Bolts going to be joining us for the first time today, and very similar to last 6 days, I guess last 5 days of Masters play. If you've been watching, single game, best of 3, best of 3, best of 3 throughout the day. Winner of the third match today, which I believe is written as match 28 on there. There's been a lot of Smite,
It's been a long couple weeks.
The winner of that one moves forward to tomorrow, and then the winner of match 30 there at the very end moves forward to as well. And so you're going to have a whole culmination with a lot of these teams, and then we're going to have, just 5 sets left after tomorrow? It's really wild how it's winding down.
But Gore, you neglected to bring up the most interesting part of that bracket. Match 29 and match 30 are elimination matches. I don't care who advances. It's about who we're sending home. And, well, if you're interested in that as well, 29 and 30 are the ones you keep your eyes on.
Well, the good news is, if you were wondering and you were like, man, I really wonder, what are the thought processes of these teams going into this? We've got not one, but 2 players that are going to be standing by. The mid laners for both the Hounds and the Dragons. And Pagon, I'm sorry, man. You always end up here, even though you've been very vocal about maybe not wanting to do so. I'm going to ask you a question first, because we haven't gotten to see you so far this event. How did 9.5 affect your role and your team coming into this? Like, do you feel pretty confident about it?
Yeah, I think we're pretty confident. I don't think it changed too much of how much we play or how we play. So I think we'll do pretty well.
Just coming in and playing that dragon style, just certified. All right, so I know what to expect. Krim, on the other side, you guys beat the Scarabs. I think kind of surprising a lot of people, maybe even yourselves, maybe not. But you come into this week, you're going up against a team like the Dragons. What's the atmosphere like for the boys?
Well, we're feeling great because it's a best of one. So we need to just take one game. So we're feeling good about that. Yeah, playstyle-wise, I mean, not going to change anything. We're not going to play any differently. We're just going to play how we play.
Now, you two have played against each other, like in the past, right? Because Pagon, prior to being brought into the SBL, you spent a lot of time down there. So is that experience something that you're going to be pulling on, or do you think that too much has changed in the meta to really rely on any past knowledge?
Yeah, probably not. I think we only played like once or twice, I feel like. Maybe not that much.
Yeah, so not enough that you're like able to pull too much on that history. Krim, this is going to be a very important matchup for you. How, I guess, like, not just winning this one, but I guess coming into week 2 of Masters, what's it mean to you?
It feels great. Personally, I mean, right, obviously it should feel great. But, yeah, I mean, we actually expected to kind of, at least, we didn't expect to beat the Scarabs, but we did expect to beat one of the SPL teams to move on. So, I mean, so far we're at where we're expected, so now there's no expectations. So.
But the other SPL team, that's your brother he's talking about, man. He's saying he's gonna beat him down. He's like got a hit list, and you're on it, he's on it. Either way, good luck in your games, guys. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
A lot of fun stuff. He's seriously, he's got a hit list. He's looking at the SPL players. But the Dragons are the first team that they're going to have to get through here, Mifflin. And again, something I'm actually really excited to watch this. Whether or not I think it's successful for the Hounds here, I think this day is going to be interesting for them. I think this year is going to be interesting for them. They've definitely, I think, caught a lot of eyes because of their success so far this tournament. And this one's going to be even more fun because they have that experience already. Like, granted, scrims and stuff for the Dragons, like it's not like they haven't been playing, but one team's been actively competing for like a week and a half now.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting conversation of the difference between scrims and actual game day. Coming into week 2, we had heard from all the SPL teams, man, I don't know what's going on with these SEC guys. Why are the games going so long? Like I promised 9-5, hasn't really slowed us down. We're playing that exact same style. Games end at 25 minutes. Nothing's different. And then they show up and every single game goes 50. And I think that speaks volumes to the pressure of playing with stakes. You play in scrims, you're like, okay, well, it's practice. I want to get better. And that's really the only reason you're playing scrims. You come to tournament day and you're like, oh, my paycheck's on the line. Maybe my job security could be on the line as well. If I don't perform here and these SEC guys are beating us out, all of a sudden, maybe some SEC players are jumping up a league. So with these added stakes, I am curious to see how the SPL teams are going to continue to show out. What are they going to do? How have they been decided to play? Is it going to maintain that quicker pace that they were talking about? Are they going to slow down similarly to what we saw yesterday? The Jade Dragons don't strike me as a slow team, though. Neither do the Eldritch Hounds. So if any match is going to be quick today, I'm expecting it to be this one.
Well, that was the one that was maybe the most interesting. The Dragons are the weirdest team in that most of their games prior to this patch, because we don't have any experience watching them competitively here, were either sub 20 minutes or over 30 minutes. Like they very rarely, it felt like, actually hit like that average mark of the 25.
Yeah,
like
no 25s
the 20s didn't exist to them. Maybe like early 20s did, and of course, like your 21s, your 22s, or your 29s. But again, that weird middle ground, that no man's land of time that just didn't seem to exist for them, was either long or short. And I guess we'll see what we're going to get out of them today. It feels like the time to kill changes are, well, just intrinsically against an early game, like, really hard pressure, we're going to kill you all instantly style. So we'll see if the Dragons can do it, A, and B, what they have to bring. Mercury, not too surprising of a ban. Yamoja and the Habwa gets banned out here. Baron, Athena, Nemesis on the other side. It's a Jingwei first pick here for the Hounds, something that's been common, although not quite as successful despite how highly she's been prioritized.
Yeah, I'm not going to leave anything at Jingwei's feet. If a team loses with Jingwei on their squad, it's not because Jingwei was on the squad, right? I mean, she just fits the meta so incredibly well, so incredibly safe as well in the laning phase. Already more difficult to find kills in 9-5. It was already pretty hard to kill Jingwei previously and has only become more and more difficult as time goes on. The Jade Dragons, I think, I'm very interested to see how their drafting phase has evolved in 9-5. Generally, it's been save Pagon for last pick. Let's just get him the counter selection. If it's Gilgamesh, awesome. He can play Gilgamesh in their back camps. If it's Susano, that works. But already, the Jade Dragons, I think, showing Pagon's pick. That's not to say that we haven't seen ADCs in the Soul Lane. We certainly have. Not to a whole lot of success, but has been rearing its head a fair bit. I think that this is likely slated for Pagon in mid. Or no, AMC's got to be going because it's Panda Cat. He loves the Uul for himself. But showing these picks so early allows the Hounds to continue playing the meta that has developed during Smite Masters. Jingwei, Bakasura, and Bellona are just 3 targeted selections, 3 very high priority picks that have already got great matchups into the Jade Dragons. Bakasura makes it so hard for both Uul and AMC to simply exist. The second he gets level 5, I'm expecting Regurgitate on one of those 2 targets. Bellona stops the double Hunter composition. And now I would even argue to a certain extent triple Hunter with Poseidon locked in, that Trident so important to his kit. Well, you get disarmed and all of a sudden that ability doesn't exist.
And also, it's always weird to think about, and we don't see it too often. This is something that you'll see in like really, I don't want to use the word troll, but troll's the only term I can think of for it. But like when you go like the attack speed, like I'm gonna use like the fact that I have 3 little autos that I can throw at you.
It hits for like upwards of 1,000.
He can hit pretty hard. He can do a lot of damage. I don't think we're gonna be seeing that. That's the question that I have to pose to you. When you see AMC, you see Uller, you see Poseidon. We have, as you mentioned, seen Hunters go into the solo lane. So for all we know, one of these could very easily be fine okay. That being said, Poseidon has been sneakily going into the jungle a lot. He hadn't been successful wildly, but he has been doing it. Is this going to be a Poseidon jungle? Do you think that's a Sam pick?
You know, when I had saw it, I hadn't even evaluated changing up the allocation of the picks that I had already addressed. So I think it is still likely going to be AMC mid with Poseidon probably in the jungle. If I had to guess, just looking at the draft as it is now for the Jade Dragons, with further information, we'll be able to develop it a little bit more so. But no, this screams to me like classic Jade Dragons. And if we're going to take any information from the interview, Pagon said, hey, we're not changing our drafts. We're not changing our style. We're playing exactly how the Jade Dragons played in 9-4, 9-3, and previously. Well, if that's the case, we're looking at a Poseidon jungle.
That'll be interesting to watch, I think, how it ends up shaking out for them. Fafnir locked in, and you would hope or think that maybe that gives us any sort of clarity as to what's going on. And unfortunately, it does not. I will say the only thing I have that's giving me and casting doubt over this is that FineOK has been very vocal about like the God pool that he was playing and what they can do now don't seem to be something that he is very jazzed about, is the way I would describe it. I think the meta has definitely shifted. Yeah, he's definitely shifted his perspective on it. Meanwhile, Bellona's up on the other side. You had already mentioned that. The Fafnir locked in there for the Dragons. The response is Ares and Nuwa.
That's smart.
And again, now Nuwa, not someone that I was thinking I was going to spend a lot of time talking about this week, but after the way the Kings looked playing, or to the point where it was forced banned, this is something that I think is going to look great. And there's an Artemis locked in, so now we get to play the good old Jade Dragon Shuffle.
Man, it's gotta be... Look, I'm going to evaluate Panda Cat. It's got to be Uul to Panda Cat, right? Like, he just loves that pick so much, but I'd argue Uul probably best fits this composition in mid. He could also flex solo. That's the only 2 places I'm expecting to see Uul. Either in mid or in solo. You generally want to have AMC or Artemis play with a support. Poseidon in the jungle. Man, I hate this composition so much. Just straight up.
No, okay, wait. Do you hate it because it's so ridiculous?
You know,
or do you hate it because the merits of which it will play? Like, you don't think it'll play well?
Look,
because those are 2 separate things.
Hinderman's not in the studio
Your
quite
personal
yet, so
taste
I'm going to go ahead and say
he's
probably asleep, so he's not listening.
Okay.
I think this is a straight up bad draft.
Okay.
I think it's just not going to work. I don't love it. The only way I could see this Jade Dragon's composition.
Someone just clipped that and tweeted it at Hindu, by the way.
Yeah, probably. I think the only way this Jade Dragon composition can work is if they're able to establish pressure early on. If they get pressure in any one individual lane, they can leverage it towards objectives in every single lane, because you've got carries everywhere on the map. In all of them, all 3 lanes will have somebody that can slam a Pyromancer. We'll have somebody that can slam a Gold Fury. So if the Jade Dragons are able to establish a lead, they should be able to go towards these objectives and push their lead there. But if this game goes to a late game team fight, it's just so simple. The Eldritch Hounds, a composition that is already suited for dive, has got 4 easy dive targets. Every single one of those for a Bakasura saying, hey, I can only get onto the AMC. You're like, okay, I don't care. That's great. Get on the AMC. I'm sorry, I can only get on the Uller. Phenomenal.
Cool.
Get onto the Uller.
Kill him.
Man, AMC and Ull are getting protected by this side, and I can't get to them.
By
Maybe
the
I get
way,
to this Artemis.
a phrase that I'm not sure
Yeah.
anyone has ever said in their
No,
lives.
of course not. These non-standard compositions in 9.5 are so hard to lock down, but standard Smite has remained standard for 10 years for a reason, because these standard compositions just continually work. They are meta-resistant. Everything that you change will not change that. A couple of warriors or a couple of frontliners and a backline is just going to work. The Jade Dragons, it's all backline.
Now here, I'm going to see if I can convince you about any difference. And admittedly, it's going to be difficult because I think very similar to what we saw yesterday with the Warriors, if Mike dies, then a lot of the backbone of the Dragons disappears with it.
Who's starting the fight for the Jade Dragons?
Yeah, that's okay. You're right. There's a lot of hills I got to tackle here, Mifflin, and I don't got time to do it. I was gonna say the Dragons like to play relatively aggressive early on. I guess we'll see if it's going to work out for them here in Game 1 of 1 to see who can take this win.
And it's gonna be an absolute banger to begin with. Already some interesting pickups where we're seeing kind of, I think, an echo from the kind of comps that the Titans were trying to run yesterday with these large amount of auto-attack based characters. I think you could even make an argument for Poseidon as an auto-attack based character with that too. And Sam for Soccer is going to be piloting this one into the jungle, just like Mifflin thought, but it will be fine okay on the AMC, Pagon on the Ulla.
Yeah, not surprising. I think maybe the AMC and the Ulla are kind of interchangeable here, where you can put them in either lane. They both have good wave clear, so they get pressure in that regard. And pressure is the name of the game here for Jade Dragons. They need to win the early game, and they need to get snowballing into these objectives so they can build a gold lead. Because Mifflin's right. When he was talking about on the desk, they're not going to win team fights. I mean, look, they're the Jade Dragons against an SEC team, so you could bet on them in that regard. But they shouldn't be winning team fights with this composition against the Eldritch Hounds, which normally, this is a general, normal team fight composition from them. The one thing that, maybe changes that a little bit is that, Erupt Crimson and Doom Emperor are both on pretty safe backliners, and that's something you normally want to do when you're getting dove. This time, I don't think they'll be getting dove at all. Final K, Sam, Pagon, all hitting the front line, as well as Panda Cat, and probably Polar Bear Mike as well, all hitting the front line. So the escapability of the Nuwa and the Jingwei aren't going to come into too much play here, but that means they can get a little more forward than they would be able to normally, and they can try to poke this backline as well.
And I think that's something that we talked about yesterday with the Leviathan's composition, where we saw this exact same problem, right? We saw the Camelot Kings going towards this Nuwa a lot in these compositions where, as you mentioned, there isn't really a lot of potential for the enemy team to get onto her. And as you mentioned, the Jade Dragons really are going to struggle getting through to that backline. DMB is going to get aggressed onto here a little bit, but Polar Bear Mike doesn't really have the damage this early on. Quig, though, on this Ares, this is a character that I think is a little bit different from the kind of style we normally see Quig play. We normally see him on these really defensive kind of Guardians.
Yeah, I think where he picked it in the draft was good, though. I believe it was AMC Ulla top 3, and then the Fafnir as well top 3. So all, pretty good targets to chain, pretty good targets to pull with his ultimate. Obviously, Fafnir has that CC immunity, but AMC and Ulla do not, and they also do struggle against a god like Ares that can just apply this consistent damage, just like Quig is doing now in lane to Polar Bear Mike.
And also, it just helps restrict the already limited, I think, escapability of the Jade Dragons. I'm looking at this composition, I'm seeing 3 people with no dedicated movement ability. Of course, Fino, Sam, and Panda Cat will all have movement speed in their kit, but that's, that's not necessarily a dedicated jump or leap.
The difficult part for Quig, however, is that nobody else really is going to get beads off of his targets. You don't often need to beads a Bakasura ult. It's really, maybe a Nuwa stun on the rare occasion, but generally those are backliners that Quig's going for, which you're not going to get Nuwa stuns on. So it really is just Quig's ultimate and maybe his Chains and Bakasura ultimate that will force beads. So I think oftentimes we're going to see Quig's ultimate, they will be on a target that has beads. So maybe Ramakami or Oath can capitalize on that, but I believe most of the time beads will be saved for the Ares ultimate.
Well, the other thing to consider, though, Ro, is that only 2 characters, just the dual lane here from the Jade Dragons, have CCI ults, and that Beard's cooldown timer is a lot longer than Ares' ult cooldown.
Yeah, and he will build some cooldown as well. Looks like Quig will go into, I imagine, Spirit Robe. That's been the general meta that I've seen in ranked from a lot of supports. It's a safe item to build right now, and it has a bit of cooldown on it as well. So if he can get that, and maybe even a Relic Dagger later, he can blink ult.
EPM has used his jump. Quig going aggressive. This looks like it could be a first blood for the SCC team, and Polar Bear Mike takes the first drop.
Who better to put that kill on than Oath as well? Crimson are going to have to run, however. Sam Fasaka has a lot of pressure here. Yeah, but he will get the back camps by the looks of it. So Sam maybe catching up in farm just a little bit because Oath's over there spending time ganking. But a first blood on your Bakasura, I believe we've seen this before on Oath. And Oath's gone, you know, kind of buck wild in these games where he can carry his team through the early game.
Yeah, this is exactly how Oath wants this to happen. This Bakasura has almost been a bastion for the Eldritch Hounds team.
Yeah.
It has been consistently working for them every single set. Oath has just looked like an absolute demon on this pick, so it's no surprise that the Eldritch Hounds run back to it here in week number 2 up against the Jade Dragons. And I'm super interested to see how it's going to work out. Oath already picking up that Golden Blade, which is now just going to shoot his farm into the stratosphere.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Poseidon will keep up in farm, no problem. Both of them having movement speed on their first item, both of them generally being fast clearing gods. They have the Eye of the Jungle each, so I think farm will be relatively even. But ganks, I think I would always give to the Bakasura. Just the general assassin gank is better than the mage gank in Poseidon. But Poseidon is fairly popular for a mage in the jungle for a reason as well. You know, he's definitely not weak in terms of ganks. But one thing he does bring, even over a god like Bakasura, is objective DPS. Bakasura will have a lot of damage in that auto attacks, but it still cannot match the objective DPS of Poseidon, which is some of the highest in the game. And then on top of that, you have a great secure in your Kraken as well.
He's got some good DPS and setup as well for these ganks. You know, you're looking at ganking mid. Pagon can land an axe to really help set up for the kill onto Crimson. You're looking at left lane, you've got Panda Cat's ultimate, you've got Polar Bear Mike with a whole slew of stuns. Even FineOK with the cripple and slow of Honey definitely has options to set up for Sam here on these ganks. So definitely some mitigating factors for the disadvantages inherently stated with a mage.
For sure. It's been a relatively even early game as well. Just seeing Oath and Quig rotate over together, maybe find Artemis here in the backline.
Potentially blinking forward, Quig looking to find Panda Cat. Tusky falls down, and well, so does Panda Cat. Goodbye, Mr. ADC. One slash line in that middle column for each of the dual lane players. Jade Dragon sitting now 2-0 down in terms of kills, but that's only just about evened out the gold despite the first blood advantage.
That is somewhat expected, and they talked about it on the desk as well. This Jade Dragons roster, this Jade Dragons draft rather, will have a gold lead in the early game. That's because they just have wave pressure. AMC clears waves very effectively. Poseidon in the jungle clears at the same speed as the Bakasura, and because Sam isn't ganking as much, they're able to put this pressure on this right side of the map where I believe they've gotten both Scorpions as well, and that adds up to a decent amount of global gold. We also see 3 totems compared to 1, so in advantage of Jade Dragons, that's even more global gold, and I imagine they'll get the Obelisk eventually as well. That is all just a product of having better early game pressure in your lanes. However, you know, is it enough? Are they going to be able to stop Eldritch Hounds from getting to the teamfight stage? And if they don't, are Eldritch Hounds able to utilize their team comp and fight better, even though they don't have the early pressure?
Well, that's the hope, right? One thing I think is important to mention here is the jitters that could potentially come through from being in this position, but the Eldritch Hounds don't look like they are experiencing any kind of stage fright. They look perfectly calm. They are playing their game. This is exactly how we've been seeing them the last week and every other game in this competition.
It is a unique scenario where normally if we have SEC teams going up against SPL teams, it's kind of a one-off type thing where it's just, you know, they're just giving it their best shot. But, you know, the Hounds have been here for almost 2 weeks now, and they've been practicing in the studio, already played. This is their 15th game, I believe, in the studio so far, so very comfortable by this point. So if any SEC team has a chance to take more games off an SPL team, it's this one.
FineOK in a lot of trouble. He is neither Fine nor OK, and is going to fall down for the 3rd kill in favor of the Eldritch Hounds.
And those are 2 gods you want your early game kills on. I imagine Remember, but completely fine here. Just used to expend his ultimate. He even could have greeted it as well. I don't think Panicat could have killed him in that duration of time, but maybe Remember doesn't want to back just yet and is opt to use the ultimate so he can stay in that lane. But yeah, a Bologna getting an early kill against the, I would argue, 4 auto-attacking composition, if we're going to include that Poseidon, is great. And you're getting great kills and great amount of gold on your Bakasura as well. So a good position to be in if you are the Hounds.
Looking back towards the left lane now, Dude Man Bro doesn't have the ultimate, so he's going to be a little bit less safe. So we could potentially see a rotation here from Sam or PBM. Does still have the beads available, but you are 100% correct. It does not look like DMB wants to back just yet. But Ramakami getting looked at now by Sam. The dash is good, but I don't think Ram has the ultimate available. That's going to be the first return kill from the Jade Dragons to find the solo laner and put themselves on the board.
Great urgency by Sam there to gank while that ultimate is still down. Now we see it's up, so he hit a very small window to gank the Bologna while she was actually, in risk of dying, because otherwise, I don't think a Bologna could ever die unless you land that Kraken, which, as we saw, Ramakami could dash out of it, and if he had his ult, he could have ulted out of it as well. So great, urgency, like I said, for Sam to be there at the right time. That was his window, and those are the kind of win conditions that they need to look out for so they can snowball this early game.
And despite the 2-kill difference, Oath currently sitting 2 levels below Sam for Soccer.
Yeah.
Sam just doing such a good job of farming right now, and Oath, as we mentioned, is really paying attention to these ganks, trying to get aggressive in the lanes, and he's losing out on a lot of farm because of it.
It's mostly these backhands, which he is securing now, but that means he is giving up pressure in that duo lane. But because he spent so much time over in that duo side of the jungle, like even the kill on Pentacat, he has to wrap all the way around up towards that red buff and then over that duo lane. That takes a long time, and that time is used by Sam to invade those backhands, which not only increases his farm, but takes it away from Oath as well.
PBM getting looked at here by Oath. Shouldn't be in too much danger, but those chains are keeping him locked down for a while. Finally, they decide to commit the ultimate. It's going to be the spit. Quig goes up and down too, and PBM takes another spill. Heavy commitment, but so far so good. The Eldritch Hounds pick up another kill, and with only a few seconds left on that Pyromancer spawn, could be an opening for them.
Not much chance for Polar Bear Mike to get away there. I think Oath played it really well, just waiting for that ultimate. By the time the chains expire, that cripple expires, he drops another one, and then Polar Bear Mike isn't able to escape. So that ultimate a little bit off the mark. Oath not too worried, able to eat a minion as well, so he just walks right out of there. Quig, however, doesn't have that mobility.
Is probably going to fall down here too. Fine, okay, drops the stinger, and there's going to be the extra follow-up damage from Pagon. Just unfortunate positioning there. I don't think that the Eldritch Hounds needed to stay in the jungle. They definitely could have backed off a little bit sooner.
And that is a risky place to be as well. If you're Quig and you get behind this team comp and you can't tank all of these, 4 carries worth of damage, then you're going to really struggle to make space for your backline.
Fine, okay, off the mark with the stinger. Not going to connect with Oath this time around, but they will be able to steal away this blue buff from Ramakami. And that's about all that they want from that attempt. The Pyromancer, though, being looked at. No one is here on the map from the Eldritch Hounds. This should be free.
And this is a luxury of the composition that they have. Not only do they have the DPS to do an objective like that so quickly, but also the pressure that it gives. Having this lane clear that they have in the mid lane and the solo lane, and this fight potential. And also, due to Quig getting picked out there in the jungle, just a little bit of, a small mistake from Quig's part, and then all of a sudden they lose a blue buff, maybe a back camp as well, I think it was, and then Pyromancer on top of that. So you can't afford to slip against this team comp that is the Jade Dragons.
You really can't, and they're starting to break this this farm game down so far. The Jade Dragons sitting a pretty cushy 1,500 gold lead here at 11 minutes, which isn't all that much, right? Mifflin always likes to talk about this.
More even.
Yeah, we definitely would expect more from this difference in teams, but this 1,500 gold really doesn't mean all that much in terms of 11.5 minutes in.
Yeah, not just yet, but we are still in the period of the game where Jade Dragons, just like they blew up that Pyromancer, can do the same to the Gold Fury, and that's when gold can get out of control. We still haven't, we have seen a Scorpion now go the sides of Hounds, so that's a little bit of global gold, but the Trebuchet already on the side of Jade Dragons as well, so just getting every little bit of global gold, including 5 totems over 2, matters in the end. And if Jade Dragons who can accelerate themselves to the point, maybe level 17, level 18, around that area, that's when they can start pulling a Fire Giant, and that's when the Hounds are really in trouble, and you have to look at Oath to defend a Fire Giant.
Potentially, just back to the farm game at the moment. No eyes on the Gold Fury for now. Fine, okay, getting aggressed on by Rem. Does force the beads from the AMC, which is a big pickup. could potentially look to see that abused, but here's the transformation from Mike, and just look at the amount of auto-attack based damage is coming through. There's going to be the Kraken, and the Gold Fury falls down.
Yeah, and that, again, a luxury of the Jade Dragons team comp. This is what they want to do. It's pretty clearly identified, and the Hounds just have to hold on and kind of, stop the bleeding as much as possible so they can get to the point in the game where they are the strongest. Dragons doing a really good job so far of playing to their strengths, and Hounds doing a decent job themselves of playing to theirs, because they're able to early gank a little bit and try to stem the bleeding, but it's starting to get out of control. Thankfully, I guess thankfully, 2 objectives are down, so they can't lose any more of that global gold just yet. Quig standing on a ward here is going to set himself up for a very bad time.
Yeah, there are 4 members of the Jade Dragons in the jungle here. Tries to go for the invade onto the blue buff, but
not so bad.
Not going to be successful, and luckily for him, the Jade Dragons don't choose to collapse just yet. DMB trades his all out with Panda Cat. The damage that comes through from that Artemis is crazy.
Yeah, last time he held his ultimate for a couple auto attacks in a trap. This time he presses it right away. As soon as Panda Cat gets that crit online, and I think got maybe 1 or 2 crits there, Dude Member not messing around, presses that button straight away, get it on cooldown so it can be up as soon as possible.
And you like that responsiveness from DMB, definitely recognizing
Respect as well.
Yeah, for sure. He recognizes the higher potential of dying. He doesn't want to be that point in the match, and at the moment, it's really not that far split. The main differential in levels was Oath and Sam. Sam was sitting at level 14, has been for a while. Oath has been at a level 11 when he was at level 14, so it really has been able to close up that gap.
Now we're not seeing Oath gank as much. He is just, joining the farm game that Sam is doing as well, so they start to even out a little bit. I'm sure Sam probably a full level ahead, which isn't nothing. Yeah, at least a full level ahead because he's now 15 over 13, but Oath would be pretty close to 14 himself as well, I imagine. The big problem is just these objectives and maybe the rotation pressure. Like Pagon, for example, able to just leave this Nuar in the dust and rotate anywhere he wants on the map right now because that's the pressure that they have. And just like they can do objectives fast, they can do these towers fast as well.
Ramakami in a lot of trouble, takes a whole heap in serving of damage, but luckily is able to hold on to his life sans beads, so he's going to be just fine. Tower not on the menu for the Jade Dragons just yet. But Salmon fine okay, still hovering over here towards the right lane. Quig potentially looking for a gank, but a nice little ward there from Sam should spot that one out.
But look what Pagon's been able to do. He cleared that mid wave, rotated all the way over to solo, helped in a gank, got a beads off a frontliner, walked all the way back to mid and didn't miss a minion. That is the luxury, again, of what they have in their team comp, and it's just that pressure and that clear.
Moving back towards the mid lane, this trio has to kind of stick together for now, but Erupt Crimson going back to clear up some extra farm, trying to stay even with Pagon, and he's doing a really great job of that. We haven't really seen all too much from Erupt Crimson. Hasn't been all too many opportunities for him to get involved just yet. The side lanes and the mid lane themselves haven't really had too much action. Ramakami has been a target for a lot of these engagements from the Jade Dragons. Maybe we could see Erupt Crimson popping that ultimate, but there hasn't really been a lot of turnaround potential from the Hounds just yet.
No, not a lot of damage in general from them. We see the AMC up there, but that's just a lot of poke. But I would say for 16 minutes, this is a pretty low damage game overall. We even see the supports up there with some of the other characters. So, not unexpected from a game like this and the team comps like this. I think Hounds are doing a good job at playing to what they picked, so just staying under that tower and farming and trying to get to the point where they're strongest in the game. And then Dragons are just playing the map, I guess you could call it PvE game at this point, what they're strongest at as well. When you have 4 DPS gods like this and a Fafnir that can enhance them, then you obviously have to look towards these DPS. But right now, he's looking towards a Bologna who still has her ultimate.
Yeah, once again, Ramakami really under duress in this right lane, and I think that just shows that the Jade Dragons are really interested in going for these objectives, and once they've made sure that Ramakami doesn't feel super safe, they're going to go for this Pyromancer, but it's not going to be free for them this time around. Scratch that PBM, doing a great job standing Bastion and making sure no one on the Eldritch Hounds can get in, even though they knew this time.
Yeah, and you might think when we only have one frontliner, how can we zone effectively? Well, Mike can zone one direction of the enemy gods coming in that one corridor, and before that they just use that pressure to force Ramakami out, so he can never be coming to that Pyromancer anyway. So that's how you effectively use your one frontliner to zone in a team fight. You just remove some of the targets that you have to zone. So Ramakami forced to be under his tower, he can't really walk into the jungle without beads up, and he still has a wave to clear as well. So great idea to just 3-man walk to that solo wave. Normally you don't want a 3-man split a wave, but you get the pressure, you walk to Pyromancer and it's free, and now their eyes are on the Gold Fury because it's coming up soon.
We We got to see the Eldritch Hounds start responding to these objective plays. They can't keep letting these go for free. And the Oni Fury could be a good place to start mounting that defense. Dude, man, bro, though, in some trouble. Surely he's able to get out. Airstrike over the wall just about saves his life, but scratched out the damage from Panda Cat, able to find it.
Yeah, I mean, that's something they certainly can't afford. I think you can kind of give up an Oni Fury like this and find farm on the other side of the map, but you certainly can't afford to give up kills as well. Now you get an Oni Fury threatened. You can Polar Bear Mike zoning, but he can also look for a fight because they're outnumbered. And I think that's a pretty big mistake from Dooman Bro. He was quick on his ultimate, but you know, there are a lot of CC. I think he probably just should have ulted instead of Aegising immediately. So, and then he might have been able to get out. But you know, when you Aegis like that, you let the enemy line up their attacks for when that Aegis is going to expire. Even if he presses his ultimate immediately, he's still going to take a lot of damage in that cast, and that's what eventually led to his death.
Yeah, just unfortunate for DMB. Will pay for it with his life, and now this gold lead starting to get out of hand. 5,000 gold in favor of the Jade Dragons. Similar amount of experience going their way too. Coming back over towards the right-hand side, potentially looking for the Fire Giant here. Ramakami in a bad spot, has to use the beads. 5 members of the red team are over towards this right-hand side row. This very much could be an FG call.
Yeah, it's 19 minutes, like I said. Level 17, 18, they have the DPS they need. They don't have a Shoguns or a Frenzy or anything like that, but when there's 4 DPS cards like this, they don't need them. Quick, not mobile enough to get away from this.
There's going to be the Kraken. No secure now for the Jade Dragons at the very least. That's a small win the Eldritch Hounds can take and go. Potentially, they won't be able to out-secure the Fire Giant, but there isn't really a lot of steal potential on the Eldritch Hounds either. 5 men strong still. The Jade Dragons just so far ahead. And the Eager Conveyor Belt so far not serving them very well. The Eldritch Hounds beating themselves to the Dragons one at a time.
Quite well played there by Ramakami. Maybe a little mistake from Jade Dragons, not fully committing to that Bologna, not willing to do that while she has that ultimate still available, but no beads there. So we saw, I think, Pagon and Sam walk forward to try to pick her, but Panda Cat and Fino K weren't really on the same page. I think if all 4 of them connect to that Bologna, when she has no beads, they may be able to blow her up. But, you know, when it's a Bologna against 2 backliners, she can live for a little while.
And she really has to start trying to. Ramakami has been able to survive a lot of these ganks, in fairness to him, right? He's been put under a lot of pressure, only died once
and not
so
falling
far.
Behind, really.
No.
The level behind an AMC, which is pretty good for him.
And overall, that's the story XP-wise, right? We've got a level in the solo lane, a level in the jungle, and that's about it. Obviously, probably half levels here, but generally speaking, the Eldritch Hounds are matching Jade Dragons toe-for-toe in this experience game. It's just that money that's going to be the big problem for them, and Quig gets absolutely melted down. Meanwhile, on the left-hand side, Oath running away from Pagon. A little bit of damage is traded back in their favor from Crimson, but it's not really all that substantial. Rem has to try and use this ult aggressively. The Fire Giant now half HP, but PBM wants to fight the damage. Coming through, up and down, 4 people stunned down, and here comes Oath trying to come in with the damage, but the Kraken is back available, and 2 people die instantly. Rem and Oath ball down. DMB has to get away, and Crimson, there's no chance.
Ramakami just too quick on the trigger. He saw a big ultimate. Oath was ready to engage, so they went together on that backline, but they forget they're still outnumbered. It's still a 4v5. Even if they can kill Mike, who was about half health at the time, it's not worth it. There's still 4 gods ready to DPS a Fire Giant like this. And while that was a decent ultimate by Ramakami, he already did his job. He already got them off the Fire Giant, which is all he needs to do, and then he can kind of relax and wait for Quig to respawn. But instead, they get kind of trigger happy when the enemy backline groups up. But you know, normally when it's 2 backliners grouping up, you're ready to blink in or ult in as a Bologna and a Bakasura and kill them. But when there's 4 of them, that's a lot of damage that's going to turn back on you as well. So they didn't live very long. I think Oath maybe got 4 auto attacks off if he was lucky, and after that he's dead. So the only target he's able to kill is Polar Bear Mike, and that's a Fire Giant for Jade Dragons.
Super unfortunate for the Eldritch Hounds. It was so close to finding a pickup. I'm not sure they were expecting Sam's ultimate to come back up so quickly. Seemingly he just used it to kill Quig, and then already back up to finish off Oath and Rem. But now, truly dire straits for the Eldritch Hounds. Ro, what do they need to start doing to come back into this game?
The anti-siege is decent. You know, you can sit on the tower as a Nuar and kind of fog. But the problem is, if Polar Bear Mike just tanks, you know, we'll talk about Phoenix Siege, for example. If Polar Bear Mike just tanks 1 or 2 Phoenix shots, there's 3 hunters on the enemy team that are ready to hit that Phoenix. You know, that just takes a hit from each of them each time Polar Bear Mike makes some space. And then all of a sudden, this Phoenix half health and they have to back out from a team fight. So the real problem is, I think, is Quig cannot live up against these 4 level 20 hunters, essentially. He's just gotten a Witchblade, which is good. He did just finish his Thebes stacks. He didn't have those before the last death as well. So maybe slightly greedy to go to Thebes instead of, just going for something that can immediately help him live. It might be too little too late now. The Spirit Robe, I think, was a good choice, but I just can't imagine he's ever even going to get that ultimate fully casted. He's just dying in that animation.
Yeah, I'm not even sure we've seen Quig get an ultimate off.
Yeah, he's used it in like reactionary to being engaged on, but he just dies during the cast.
Well, this could potentially be an opportunity for Quig to show the grouping's good from the great Jade Dragons, and they're looking to push into this left Phoenix. Quig is the main target for this poke, though. They really do not want to let this guy blink in. There's gonna be a lot of beads expended. A lot of things will have to be used. PBM goes up into the Dragon form, and that will trigger the all-go for the Jade Dragons. Walks in, does Mike and Quig immediately put into combat. No blink available for him. Luckily, they were able to repel the wave, but
that's
Phoenix
all they have to
is
do.
already
They just have to do that once more, and then the Phoenix is dead. Mike just makes some space. Before the wave gets there, the wave helps them a little bit. Now they just need to hit the Phoenix, and they'll be able to walk away for free.
Quig has to back there, does not have the HP to maintain himself in this position. The Eldritch Hounds, they just need an opening of some sort, but Jade Dragons are playing this so cleanly.
Yeah, they're not giving it to him. Quig can't afford to just blink ult in there. Maybe we see in our Assault games where the Ares just blinks into fire, but it's different in Conquest. It's a level 14 Ares against 4 level 20 ADCs, essentially. He will melt during that ultimate. Maybe he can shell before he blinks and then ult. I still can't imagine him living very long once he gets that ultimate off, and even then, he's still contesting with 4 beads on the enemy team, so he's not going to get value out of that ultimate regardless. He's just going to trade his life for a couple of relics, which is not worth it again. And it's just a product of him being behind against this team comp. It's not easy for him to play. The only real way he's going to get any value from blinking in is if Oath and Ramakami are with him, so they can try to absorb some of that damage that the enemy backline is doing, but I don't think they have the damage to blow up these hunters. I don't think they've even forced any Aegises apart from that Fire Giant fight, so it's not going to be easy for them.
But you only hit level 20 once, right? And that's the situation we're starting to see now from the Eldritch Hounds. They're starting to catch up. Ramakami, Oath, and Dude Man Bro all hit level 20 now. Only Crimson left to hit that milestone. Quig, even then, only 2 levels behind PBM and nearly close to hitting that level 16 mark, only a couple XP needed. So there is definitely the opportunity to come back into this, but the Jade Dragons are running it down really fast, and the Hounds are going to need more time.
They don't give them any breathing room because, yes, they've hit 20, but you don't need to just hit 20. You also need the gold to upgrade your starters. We're seeing 3, I guess 4 if you include Quig's missing starters on the enemy side, on the side of Hounds, I should say, whereas we've got all 5 of them completed on the Jade Dragons team. So I can't imagine they'll even wait for this Fire Giant, I would assume. I guess I'm wrong now with the pathing, but I would assume they were going to push that tier 2 and then go back to Fire Giant. They're just that strong.
Really have so much space at the moment. Quig really needs like a Spectral online. At the moment, 2 characters rocking out the crit. Both FinoK and PandaCat have that Envenomed Deathbringer and the the Wind Demon online. No Envenomed Deathbringer for Fino just yet, just the Wind Demon, but my point still stands. Crit available for both of those 2 characters.
Just waiting around for that Fire Giant to spawn, but again, they've caught Quig. I can't imagine he's going to be able to get away from this. He doesn't have a Wing Blade, but I guess they don't have much over-the-wall damage. FinoK and Pagon can, pop a couple abilities over. Maybe Sam can throw a pool over, but that's not enough to catch Quig. But he's already behind, and now he's missing, 20% health. That's even worse for him.
For sure, and Eldritch Hound's looking to step up here, but they will be surrounded. Ramakami in a little bit of danger. Takes half HP. Mike gonna get returned on a little bit, but Ram definitely takes the worst part of that trade.
The only saving grace for him is that he has teleport, but he might be busy with this wave. Then again, I think they're just giving up this Fire Giant. It's not an EFG. They are already missing the worst Phoenix, so maybe it's not the worst idea to do so. But we didn't see much of a base defense on that left side, so I don't think it'll be too much different on the right side, especially they've just built their lead more than they had last time.
Well, this time around, think about it this way. Quig able to get a couple more levels under his belt. There's a lot of base stats for the Ares. Has a little bit more gold. Could potentially finish up, or at least start up a new item, but has to try and go something. Blinks in. He is going to get hit by the ultimate, but the pull is going to come through. Beads available from everybody. And up into the sky goes Ramakami, trying to find the damage. Crimson puts it down, but Rem's going to fall too. Half HP on all members of the Jade Dragons, but already the ultimate from Oath has been expended. DMB falls down. The right Phoenix falls down too. And I don't see a way out of this one, Ro. The Jade Dragons should finish up this game number 1 and go through to the winner's bracket.
And that is the downside. That is the hard part of not fighting those Fire Giants. You don't get to force any relics on the side of Jade Dragon, so Jade Dragon's having all 10 of them ready for that last team fight. Even though Quig gets his ultimate and forces some beads, Oath gets a blink in, Remakami gets an ult in, they're fighting 10 relics, so they use those, the double shell effectively, there's Aegis effectively. We saw Nuwa Burst do a decent amount of damage to the backline, but it's just not enough when they're fighting all level 20s and a full set of relics for each of them as well. So a good job doing that last team fight, but too little too late from them.
Yeah, it looked like the Jade Dragons just bled them dry. They got every single objective on the map uncontested, and it just did not seem like the Hounds had any sort of space to be able to play with.
That's just, yeah, I think they played, the Dragons that is, played their win conditions kind of perfectly. They knew what their comp was designed to do. They've obviously practiced this. This is a best of one, so maybe it was kind of a cheesy type of comp, which you would kind of expect in a best of one, especially from a team like Dragons. That's what the kind of thing they like to come up with. But if we see this from them again, I imagine we'll see much of the same thing, where they just look for the objectives, look for the pressure, and just build a constant gold lead up until the point you're threatening a Fire Giant.
Well, we'll have to ask the desk for a little bit more details on how the Jade Dragons were able to constrict their foes. Gore and Mifflin breaking it down.
Well, Mifflin, it was exactly what the thing you said. You said, hey, this comp should not work and will not work unless X, Y, and Z. And they did all of those things. You said, what, the early lead, getting gold, grouping up, burning objectives, and then just winning fights because they're so far ahead. And they kind of did that.
Yeah, just
like that was the game. I kind of just did it. I'm sorry. I took your job.
So now I ask you questions about how it happened? No. I mean, the Dragons just farmed incredibly well. Despite the Eldritch Hounds getting off to a relatively quick start, believe first and second blood go their way. At one point, it's like 4-2. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, maybe the Eldritch Hounds can just maintain this. I think with the compositions as they were, the onus on the Eldritch Hounds is to just maintain even until team fight phase rolls through and then utilize your more standard composition. But because the Jade Dragons are just so much more experienced in macro play, controlling the Greater Scorpion, controlling the totems, controlling the neutral farm, even in these scenarios where the Eldritch Hounds are getting an advantage in the early, they're still all about a level down, maybe a level and a half down. And once the Jade Dragons had established that lead, which is exactly what we had said on the desk, they just start jamming objectives. Jazzberry jamming objectives, Pyromancer, Gold Furies, everything, and continually kept the Eldritch Hounds off balance, because that is exactly what this composition was designed to do. The Jade Dragons, in every single lane, had an answer to an objective, no matter what. You didn't need all 5 members of the Jade Dragons on any individual structure or anything like that, because they've just got that many hunters on their squad. They'll be able to do anything anywhere on the map, and that's exactly what happened. I am curious to see whether or not the Jade Dragon's going to maintain this style of play. If this is something they think can work against SPL teams in longer sets, once people have seen how it is exactly going to play out. But in a best of one, as Rose said, you can bring out things that are a little bit different and catch people off guard. And I think the Eldritch Hounds, that's exactly what happened. They were just caught off guard.
And so far, I think we got to see maybe a glimpse at one of the big separators. And this has almost been a consistency throughout the years whenever you get the intermingling, I want to say, the SCC and the SPL teams going up against each other. One of the hardest things for SCC teams, and we actually saw it earlier this year during the plans, one of the hardest things to deal with is how well SPL teams farm. I mean, you go back to the SPL plans at the beginning of the year, and it's like, what were the Oni Warriors doing better than everybody? It was just gold. They just had more money all the time and could afford a lot more items, things like that. And so the Hounds get a little taste of that here. They had a little taste of that on Sunday, and they were able to overcome it then. Right now, they weren't, but they will be playing a little bit later. Potentially Bolts, Valks, one of the 2 teams that are going to be going up against them. And it'll be interesting to see in a best of 3 what they can do to adapt to that. But we'll be seeing them a little bit later. Same thing for the Dragons. They're going to be moving forward. You know what? Just look at the bracket so you can get a better visualization of this one. Winner of this next match will go up against the Dragons. Winner of that goes forward to tomorrow. Loser of that goes up against the Hounds. And then, to highlight Mifflin, for match 29, loser of that goes home. Loser of match 30, they go home. And then tomorrow, me and Jay, I had to draw out a bracket, but you're going to have a few best of 3s that come through, and then towards the end of the day, you're going to get a team that goes straight to the finals, and then a team that gets eliminated. And then on Sunday, it's a team that gets eliminated, and then a team that just straight up wins the tournament. And that is going to wrap it all up. It feels like it's a nice little pretty bow on there, Mifflin.
Look, I may be reading a little bit too much into the interviews that we had going into the set, but Crimson said he had his eyes on the Valhalla Valkyries from the offset, right?
Already.
You asked him about his match against the Jade Dragons. He said, well, I think this Valks matchup is going to be pretty good. So maybe the Eldritch Hounds realizing that they weren't favored in the matchup against the Jade Dragons. Obviously, the Jade Dragons playing very, very well, not just this week so far, but coming into this week. Yeah, this phase has been very strong for them. A prediction from Krim, Olympus Bolts will take the Valkyries, and, well, it seems like the Hounds would prefer to play against the Valkyries there. I'm excited, man. Today's got a lot of implications for the rest of this event.
It's also really interesting to think about it. I almost forgot that we did a whole placement LAN, if you remember that. It was a while ago. First and second seed were the Dragons and the Bolts. So coming in today, they will probably see each other at one point or another. There's like a very rare and still actually maybe really exciting instance where one of these teams gets eliminated, the other goes forward, and they don't see each other at all. But probably we'll see each other, and it'll be exciting to see if we get that. But we'll have to find out whether or not the Bolts can even get there first, as well as the Valks here as they take each other on in the next set. We're going to kick it to a quick break, and then we'll be right back with more SBL Masters.